All right, we are live on Halftime Hits, brought to you by Broadway Sports Media. You can check out BroadwaySportsMedia.com for tons of great content and lots of podcasts. Also, if you are joining here from Twitter, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel or our Facebook page so you can join in on the conversation. Thank you for shutting that down. Twitter will continue to shout that out. So Titans
Yay,
are
Twitter.
up. Yeah, Titans are up 10-0 at halftime on the Jags. And frankly, that score, if you listen to the Coach's Corner podcast this week, I kind of predicted that the score would probably be a little bit closer than the game really feels. Look, the Titans have been by far the better team. Missed a field goal, but it's been very much we're here taking care of business. Their running clock had an 8-minute drive that really sank into the opportunities to score for both teams there. But overall, the Titans have been uneventful, not very exciting, but clearly the better of the two teams. Ryan, what are you seeing there on offense?
Yeah, I'm actually seeing the Titans kind of imposing their will, even though it doesn't reflect in the scoreboard. There's a lot of running plays that are, we've said a bunch of times, a successful running plays and something that pops for 20, 30, 40 yards every time. You keep running it like you have been now, you get those 3 and 4 yard chunks. And how many times have you seen Hilliard getting up in there? And he's not a big back, as we pointed, as you and I were talking about in the first half, just no one else can see us when we're talking, but just he's a slight back. He's not very big, but he's still getting up in there and he's still getting 4 yards a carry. And in this offense, if you're able to get those kinds of, I call those the chunk runs, because you're getting 4 or 5 yards, you're staying on schedule. And now your whole playbook's open to you. And especially on a day where the Titans and Tannehill are not threatening down the field, this running game having this early success on these early downs is going to be key to continue this time of possession and continue these scoring opportunities. You got to get some in the end zone. You got to also try to press down the field a little bit more. The graphic was, I think, Tannehill's only had one pass attempt, I think, farther than 15 yards down the field the whole game. So the running game has to stay on point, but the blocking seems to be real good. So that's what I'm seeing from this offense.
Yeah, offense, I mean, the blocking, like you hit on, it really is the key to the first half right here. They've been very successful. The running backs are taking what is there. It's one of those, look, you're not going to get those 60-yard plays. I know they hit them against the Patriots. Those are not going to be the norm with these kinds of running backs. But I do think what you're seeing is they are getting what is actually being blocked, and the offensive line continues to be blocking very well. The Jags are just bad. Frankly, it's just bad overall. Yep. When you look at what they're doing defensively, outside of Griffin, they're at corner, who is having a pretty good game, very sure tackler. He's been very good. But on offense, I also do want to say that they've been working Julio Jones back into this, and that's not something that they've been having to do a ton of volume towards him. You don't have to have huge plays, but for a guy that's missed some time, has definitely been up and down this year due to injuries, it's good to see him just kind of get back in the mix with some plays here or there. So I do think that that's a good thing to get going. I see a comment coming in here already about getting Firkser in there. And yeah, it is good that he got in there, but I can't say drop aside. I mean, those are the plays that he has to be able to make. He has to be sure-handed. So I'm not letting him off the hook quite yet, but it is nice for another weapon, a team that needs the weapons, to be able to start working a guy in like that.
We've had a common phrase while watching games called third and Firkser for a couple of years now. It's nice to see third and Firkser back, because before today, and I called this out in the podcast. So Matthew, if you like that, that's what we called in the podcast this week, is we didn't want a dynamic Firkser. We wanted a contributing Firkser. And if he can continue to do things like that, where he's just being used as a weapon on third down and intermediate to convert those first downs like he's doing, that's when he is really on top of his game. Because he's not he's not that tight end. He's not Jonnu Smith. I mean, I know he can catch and do some things well, but he's not that. He's not the best blocker in the world. But if he can contribute like that, that's all we were calling for. And to Jonathan's credit, there's a couple times where they got into this big set and they were able to spread the Jaguars out and take advantage of some of those mismatches and things. So the Titans are kind of trying to do that. They've gone spread it out wide a little bit, tried to get into Wildcat before a timeout at some point in time too. So they are trying a few wrinkles there to get the Jags off balance.
I think the one thing that I saw them do, you talk about what are you going to put in, what little wrinkles can you add in a bye week, and the one that I really liked is that they've been showing this formation. Well, they will come out in a quad look to the outside of really a bunch formation with the running back lined up wide. every single time that I've seen it that I can remember, they motion that running back into the backfield, to the point that I was even calling it. Look, you got 4 men on the outside here. They're going to motion him, but they actually ran a play, and it's essentially a screen play where you got big blockers out there out of the bunch formation that are going to run out there. And you saw Foreman very upset whenever he got tackled in a one-on-one situation because he's probably walking into the end zone. And that's not the only play. There's been a couple plays on offense. There was an overthrow on a screen
Hilliard
pass to
could have also
Hilliard
gone.
that probably was going to end up in the end zone. So the big plays are there. Titans just got to clean up a couple of things, but overall they have been the better team there. Let's shift over then to the defensive side.
Wait, I'm predicting, just so I can call it on the show, I'm predicting at least 2 50-yard runs at some point from this offense, because the way they're hitting the run, their lanes right now, something's going to pop at some point before this game's over with.
Yeah, I mean, 2 50-yard runs, that's a rarity in the NFL, so that's quite the prediction. We'll see if that we'll see what happens as the stereotypical podcast response there. We'll see what happens. So moving over to the defensive side, Titans come out, there was some talk about who was going to be in, who was going to be out. Their front four have been relatively dominant. Mm-hmm. I mean, Denico Autry comes out first drive of the game, comes up with a sack. You've got Landry involved. They've just been very, very dominant up front, which is what you want to see against this team. I think until the garbage time play where Marvin Jones there at the end of the half picked up some extra yardage. That Jags had 53 yards in the first half, so just not a very impressive showing from them. And again, with the injuries that the Titans have, that's something that it again reflects on that front four and their ability to take over, and that they're doing it without Bud Dupree. So that again, not doing anything fancy. You haven't seen a ton of games played up front, not a ton of twists or anything like that. They're just straight up manhandling the guys that are in front of them, which is what you want to see. And we always talk about what can you clean up from a coaching perspective. Good luck cleaning that up, because if you're just getting whooped,
you're getting whooped. Not much you can do about that. Another positive for me is seeing Rashaan Evans contribute the way he has. He had a tackle for loss, and I made a joke, what decade is this for the Titans if they're, linebackers making tackles behind the line and stuff. But no, good on Evans. He looks like he's getting healthy, and if he's able to make plays like that, that's icing on the cake for this defense with everything else going on. I know there has been some completed passes here and there, but you caught it. Autry looking good. Landry's looked good. That whole offensive front, Danny's looked good as well. So everything's kind of falling into place for this defense. And that's the thing is, like, people, I even see still on Twitter complaining about this Titans defense week in and week out. And I want to be like, when they don't have a short field to defend, they're pretty damn good. They've been pretty damn good all season. And I don't know what the complaining is about for that. They've been a squad, especially with the injuries they've been dealing with. They've held it together and kind of had those next people up. There's been some plays here and there, but again, you're seeing a day when they're just kind of doing their jobs and making the plays.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't have to beat down the Jags too much over here, they're just not good. You don't have weapons there. I do think Trevor Lawrence is playing fairly well. He missed one play down the field that you'd like to see an otherworldly talent kind of guy make that play where he had.
Is that the holding?
No, he had Marvin Jones down the field. Actually, I do think they called holding on that.
So, but your point being, he can hit those, and he didn't hit that one. Take your chances, especially when you have a team that's struggling.
Yeah, overall, he's played pretty well. He's got some good pocket movement in there. He's completed some passes, but the Jags are just devoid of any sort of talent. Shenault is a guy that you like to be your number 3, maybe number 2, but when he has to be your number 1, you're in a pinch there.
He's a Jag.
Yeah, the corpse at this point of Marvin Jones. He's a good football player, but again, you need guys there, and they don't have them. Titans are just asserting their will on defense right now. They have 8 yards of rushing allowed so far. If James Robinson can't get going, I don't think this Jags offense can move the ball.
That's a great point. I mean, the 8 yards total for the entire team. James Robinson, 3 carries, 4 yards with a long of 5, which means he's had a tackle for loss in there as well. So they can't get that going. If this team can't get the running game going, then it's going to be lights out in the second half with the way that this defensive front is playing. And not to switch back to offense, but you mentioned the receivers for the Jags are just guys and all this kind of stuff. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is really turning into, I don't want to say he's a dominant NFL receiver, but it's fun to watch him play, and he's definitely serviceable for the Titans. So at least they've got that going for them along with Julio. So sorry to switch back to the offense for a second, but had that thought during the first half as well.
I'm glad you didn't say dominant. I probably would have jumped on you if you said dominant, but he can be a solid number 3,
serviceable,
maybe sneaking into number 2 if he continues to develop. But he for what you've invested in him, you'll take it, right?
Yeah,
those are the guys you want to hit on. So I do want to talk about just a little bit as we start to wrap down the show here. You can always check out the post-game show. We'll be back there with
Mr.
friends.
Lebowski.
Mr. Lebowski will be joining us here. Titans got to keep up It is only a 10-0 lead. You can see that slip away. They have been dominant, but they haven't necessarily put up enough points to say this is
Sure.
icing on the cake at this point. It's over. You're not there yet. So need another big
Right.
stop coming out of the half. Do want to mention the worst performance of the half, and that would be the commentary from Jay Feely, just absolutely asserting his role as the one of the worst commentators out there. I think the statement of, well, I'd like to see Christian Fulton there. I think the Jags are going to take advantage of that matchup. So the Jags are going to take advantage of the number one corner on the Titans. Makes absolutely no sense.
No
It's
sense.
asinine how
Yeah.
people have jobs doing that. And if you're going to go, I get it is hard to talk for 3 hours. You have to fill space.
But
But
know who
yo,
people are. Know who people are
have some
at
self-awareness
the
about some
minimum. Yeah.
things. It's just absolutely atrocious. So, fitting right in with some other Nashville commentators here in this market who's out there talking about can they be furious about the Titans' first half performance and then whatever. Welcome to Nashville. So,
They literally said with the Titans are controlling this game right now. They're doing whatever they can. They're not having to do anything fancy. They're literally just playing 4 yards in a cloud of dust offense for the most part and completing passes, getting Julio back involved. They're doing some really good things here. I mean, what did you expect them to do? Are you wanting them to hang 40 points on an NFL team? No, they're literally not taking chances, and they're doing their game, and they're doing it quite well. I mean, what more do you want?
yeah, I'd like to see the Titans actually take advantage down the field on offense here in the
Sure.
second half. I'd like to see some down the field passing game with Julio back. Can you get Chester Rogers open? Can you get Westbrook-Akeen down the field a little bit? Start to open it up just a little bit. As you're having success running the ball, you should be able to hit some of those kinds of plays. So that's the only thing, if I was nitpicking, I want to see. But
It's not terrible.
no,
Don't be furious
absolutely.
about it.
So we'll see you all after the game. Make sure you head over to BroadwaySportsMedia.com and check out the great content there. We also have some cool merchandise. We got shirts. We got stickers. We got stuff like that. So make sure you check that out as well. And then you can check it out at JB on Broad, myself on Twitter, and then my co-host here, Mr. Ryan Watson. The hat with the shirt at Ryan on Broadway. So until after the game, enjoy it.